Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today I'm going to be walking you through your 2017 Kz Sportsmen 272. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. Right at the back here, you do have your spare tire. And then if you come to this side of the bumper tube, you do get access from both sides. But if you pull on the bumper cap on either side, you can pull this off. This is typically where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We do have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in here yet. And then in this corner, as well as all four corners of the unit, you do got your stabilizer jacks. Those work pretty simple. You hook up your 3/4 inch drive nut to the 3/4 inch. You hook up the 3/4 inch drive tool to the 3/4 inch drive nut. Run this foot down to the ground. Once the foot does contact the ground, just give me another 8/4 turn to snug it up. It's going to take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. Just a couple extra notes for them. They are stabilizing jacks. They aren't leveling jacks. Please don't use them as so, otherwise you do run the risk of bending them. Now, whenever you are running them up or down, if you're using an impact, just keep in mind how much torque you do put on there because they do bend pretty easily. Coming a little more forward, you do get your sewer outlet. Taking that cap, twisting it off, your sewer hose is going to have the same attachment. Just locks into place like so. You got your black valve and your gray valve. You always want to empty your black valve first, so it's going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. And then you can come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. Again, coming a little more up front, you're going to notice this vent here. This is a service port for your fridge. Not much you need to worry about inside of there. It's just always a good idea to make sure you do see this tube sticking outside. The reason it's there, that's going to be the drain for inside up top in the freezer. So once things de-thaw, it has a place to go. It doesn't sit and pool inside of there. Get your fresh water connection. So if you're out of sight with service, you can thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It will pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. Right here, you do get your standard 30 amp power connection. Most campsites should have this. You can plug right on in. But let's say you have the unit at home or your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet. We do include that park adapter. Just keeping in mind whenever you are using that, you're not going to be able to run your air conditioner. Realistically, it's just to run your fridge and your lights. This little cord here, it is about 15 feet long once fully extended. A lot of times that's enough cord for most campsites, but sometimes you may want to think about picking up an extension cord. And just keep it in mind when you do pick up an extension cord, you will have to get a 30 amp extension cord if you want the air conditioner to still run. If you do hook up a standard extension cord with the 15 amp park adapter, just keep it in mind again, you're not going to be able to run your air conditioner. You got your furnace exhaust. Whenever your furnace will be running, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that, making sure it's nice and free and clear. Right up top here, you got your range hood flap. You're always going to want to make sure that it is opened up so that way when you turn it on, you're evacuating whatever fumes or smells you want to evacuate out. But whenever you're traveling, snapping that back into place, that way you're not getting any excess dust inside the unit. Right here, this is where you're going to find your fresh water fill. So this is going to be what fills up your fresh tank if in case you're out boondocking, or your site doesn't have, or if your site doesn't have water. Again, that's going to be fill that. And if you look down below the floor here, you're going to notice you do have this valve open like so. It's going to allow that to drain right out. Closing it off lets the tank fill up. Inside this front compartment, twist, open it up. Again, you got your standard starter kit. That's where you're going to find your sewer hose, a 15-foot water hose, and then some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter. And now if you come along to the front of the unit, inside this box here is where your battery is located. Inside there, you're going to notice you got a little inline fuse here. This is going to be for your power tongue jack. So let's say you're out camping, power tongue jack doesn't work. This is a quick, easy check, just to see if maybe just the fuse popped for whatever reason, but you do have a manual override underneath this rubber cover that you can run it up and down with the drive nut that's inside this compartment. Up front, you get your two standard propane tanks. Most of the time you can get what you need done just by closing these or opening these. Get access to both the top of the tanks, but let's say one tank goes dry, you want to fill it up. You pull up on the tank cover, it slides right out of place, you take that wing nut, loosen it off, and you're good to go. Other than that, you got your selector valve on the front of your regulator. With it pointed this way, you're going to be drawing off this tank counterclockwise like any standard barbecue. To open up the flow, you are going to want to turn that nice and slowly. If this tank were to go dry, close it off, switch this to the other side, and you can start drawing off that tank. This is just going to be the other side of that storage compartment. And again, up front, you got your tools to stabilize the box. Down the rest of the unit, you got your main entryway door, which we'll go over in a second. A couple standard outlets, as well as a coax outlet in case you want to hook up a TV outside. And then you get your little service port for your water heater. Flip let that guy down. Whenever you first get to your campsite, give that pressure relief valve a pull. That shot of water coming out of there is letting you know that the tank is full and safe to fire up. If you see no shot of water coming out of there, that's letting you know that it wouldn't be safe to fire up. So keep that in mind. Coming down below here, you got your 1.1/8" drain nut. That's gonna be how you drain all the water out of this tank. I'm gonna go over a reset procedure inside. The button I'm gonna refer to is just right here. And then in the bottom left corner, you're gonna notice an off-on switch. That is gonna be how you change it from propane and electric. With it in the on position, it's in electric mode. So it's, before you ever hit that switch, it's very important that the tank is already full, because it doesn't take long for that element to be out of the water. If you turn it on, it will take only a few seconds for it to burn out, and about $100 to replace for just the part. Again, you don't want to be doing that, so just make sure before you do ever turn it on to electric that you do have the tank full first. Now, propane is going to be the way to get the quickest, hottest water, but of course electricity will just be more efficient. After, because it's a little difficult. But yeah, once that's on there, you can just pull this, snap it over, locks in place. Now to get inside, taking those stairs, pull the first one towards you. It's gonna let them down, flip one down, flip the last one down. That'll allow you to open up your door. You open up the door, take the step on inside first, and you notice on the left is that part, so you just pull the pin and shoot. And then this has a beautiful, nice open layout. So we'll start off in the bedroom. You've got some standard blinds. Again, they're just gonna work like any standard household blinds. You pull it one way, it allows it to go down. Pull it the other way, it locks it into place. Up, down, pretty standard. You get a little shade so you can close the louvers. Storage all throughout. Now, whenever you're using the storage inside this unit, just of course being careful of drains, water lines, and things like that, you're not gonna be wanting to affect any of that while you're storing your items. This side here is going to be the fire exit for the back. Pulling this tab, the screen's going to pop right out of place. That'll allow you to then take your handle, fold it up, push it out. Sometimes they get a little stiff just from being sealed for so long, and that'll allow you to hop on out of the unit. Of course, trying to go feet first, but if there is a fire, just trying to get out as safely as possible. If you pick up on the foot of the bed, you do get a little storage area here, and it does open into the main compartment, so just be mindful of that. Lots of accent lighting all throughout. Lights are just on their own center push buttons. You can turn them off and on as you desire. Got this couch here, so let's say you had some extra guests. Pulling the foot of the couch just allows it to fold down. You want to fold it back up. Grabbing on the foot, but then you do like to have to kind of assist it up top a little bit. Fold it back down into place. And if you wanted some privacy while you were sleeping and your guests were sleeping, there's a little shade here you can close. Into the kitchen area, it's pretty standard. Storage all throughout, microwave up top, range hood, storage down below. Your furnace is right here. It's gonna push all its air through this into the unit. So if you want to have a fan to run some air around, it might be a good idea. Up top, you're gonna have your air conditioner. All the controls are just on this knob here. Low fan. There's two low fans. I'm not sure why. That's just the way it is. Then a high fan. Now that's just moving air around with the air conditioner. You can decide where the air blows just by using the louvers. If you want to close one side, you can. Blow it to the other side. And then you got low cool and high cool. Again, that's going to be when the air conditioning takes into effect. And then this temperature knob here. I know it's going to show a red option. That would just be turning the air conditioner off. If it had a heat pump installed, which these ones don't, it would engage the heat pump. But again, so you could just leave that on the cool option. And obviously the closer you get to the red, the less cool it's going to be, but it won't ever turn on as heat. Now the furnace operates off this thermostat here. It's clicking it to the left turns it off. If you pull it over to the right, that turns the furnace on. You do have to have the propane on for it to turn on and the system purged. I'll go over that in a few seconds when we go over that stove over there. All the way to the right is the hottest setting. Clicking it and off to the left turns it off. Now that is going to run for about an additional 3 minutes just to allow itself to cool down, just as an added safety feature. Because this unit is equipped with propane. You got your LP detector right here near the ground. If this guy ever does start going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents to get some fresh oxygen inside of here. And again, because this unit's equipped with propane, just being safe about it, you got your stove right up top here. Whenever you're using this, just being very safe. Again, it's a gas-operated stove. So we'll go over a few notes here before we do go over lighting it. Whenever you turn the system off at the front, it allows air into the system. Once it does, air makes its way in. It does have to be purged out. Now, the quickest, easiest way to do that is through your stove, because you get to decide how long you leave the gas valve open for and how many lighting sequences you can do. If you go to try to fire up your stove, your water heater, or your furnace, your fridge, your water heater, or your furnace, before you fire your stove, those things will only try lighting themselves a couple times, and if they don't sense a flame, because the system isn't purged, it could throw a fault code at you. If you don't know what the fault code means, it could throw a little wrench in your weekend. So I always recommend firing up your stove first thing, and then of course if you do try to go firing up anything else and it fails the first time, always at least try a second time. Again, it could just be a purging issue. Now when it comes to lighting your stove, you're just pushing in that knob, turning it over to the high/low option, and hitting the sparker. You can see it does fire right on up. Now today I did have the system running earlier, so that's why it fired up so quickly. And you see they do all light up. But a special safety note here, whenever you have this on, always making sure you are hitting that sparker every few seconds while you have the gas valve on. The reason being, if you are running that gas valve without running the sparker, it could cause a buildup of gas, and then if you go to hit the sparker, there could be a minor combustion. That's something you're going to want to avoid, because it does run the risk of you losing eyebrows or eyelashes. So of course, just being safe whenever you're running a gas valve on, just making sure you're hitting the sparker and making sure that you're not going to get that buildup of gas. For lighting the oven, it is the same thing, but there is no sparker down there. You'd have to have a lighter on hand. Turning it over to the pilot option, pushing and holding the knob in. Take your lighter, go underneath the gas orifice that's down there. Once the pilot is able to light and hold its own, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it would fire right on up. Whenever you're running your stove, I always recommend running your range hood, because again, when you're burning off propane, it takes oxygen out of the air. So if you're sucking the propane fumes out of the unit, it's not gonna set off that LP detector, which is pretty loud. It can possibly startle you a little bit. Fridge, freezer, everything down below. And then you got this little power button, turning it on, turns the fridge on. It's gonna start a lighting sequence. If the main power source were to be disconnected, always make sure that you have the gas on at the front and the system purged, because then it'll automatically flip over to gas. Push and hold the button to turn it off. If you've had this running for a full weekend, you're done using the unit, it's going to be sitting off for, week or weeks at the time, or even days at that point. You're going to want to make sure that when you turn it off, try to leave these doors open for a few hours with some towels inside, because once this starts obviously cooling down, it's going to create condensation, and if you just leave that condensation in there, it could cause moisture to build up. Up on this wall here, you got your sound system, pretty much self-explanatory, minus the A, B, and C. C's not really hooked up to anything. You just got A and B. A is interior, B is exterior speakers. And if we come over here, right by the door, you got all your different light switches and stuff. A couple of them are going to turn on outside lights, and the one in the middle is going to turn your inside lights on. And then you do have your awning control. Pushing it towards the outside of the unit allows that awning to make its way out. Whenever you're rolling this out, always making sure you keep your eye on the wind speeds. Once the wind speeds do start picking up, you're going to want to make sure that you start rolling this in. Acts exactly like a wind sail. Once the winds start catching it, it doesn't take much to bend your arm to rip the fabric. You get pretty tossing pretty quickly. Sometimes that flap can get stuck like you've seen there, so you just got to retract it and then put it back out again. Once you see the back, you're taking that little flap down, you're good to go. Now if we're to start raining, you can take any arm front or rear and adjust the pitch by pinching in on that, pulling that arm in or out, and then it's going to allow water to run off. Now if you like that angle better, because it's going to allow for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm, so that awning is sitting lower down. Just make sure that you do put them back to their natural resting positions before you try and bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending or ripping anything. Coming back inside. Got your dinette. Again, this can also be used as another sleeping space. You just have to remove the feet from underneath the table, set your tabletop on its desired ledges, then take your back cushions to fill in the center. Right here is where you're going to find that TV backer. You get a little reinforcement piece that comes down here. That's where you're going to want to mount a TV in case you want to put one inside of here. Double bunks, great little feature. Then last but not least, taking a step into the bathroom. Sink, toilet, shower. Above my head, you do have a little vent lid. Running that guy open clockwise all the way. Opens up. You're going to see we do open straight into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining, it's going to get wet inside of here. We do sell max air covers here at the shop. It's going to be a cover that goes over top of here. It's going to protect that and allow you to leave this open while it's raining and running. That way it's not going to get wet inside of here. And then of course, if you were to forget this open during travel, if you had the max air cover, you're good to go. It's nice and safe. If you didn't, and you leave it like so, you do run the risk of it being damaged. It's going to be a great little addition to your camper, and you can get set up with it just by contacting your parts department. They'd be more than happy to help you out. Counterclockwise to close it down, just making sure you do give it an extra little turn just so that it holds it down, but don't go too tight, otherwise you run the risk of stripping gears inside of there. 90% of the outlets in your unit are ran through GFI. It's a moisture protected plug, so if it senses moisture, it's going to trip. So you got reset on the middle, test on the left. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, just make sure that the system isn't tripped. It's a quick, easy way to solve the problem. Medicine cabinet up top right here. It's going to be your monitor panel system, as well as how you turn on your water pump and your water heater. So you got two different options: LP gas, hitting that switch. Water heater is going to try lighting itself 3 times. If on the third try it doesn't light, this DSI fault light's going to stay on. At that point, turn this switch off, go hit that reset button I showed you earlier, and then try firing it back up. Again, it could just be a purging issue. It's always good to try it twice. And if it doesn't light on the second time, then maybe start panicking a little. And if you want to fire it up on electric, you just have to hit that switch, but you do have to make sure the switch is on down at the water heater. You got your monitor panel system. Pushing the button gives you the corresponding level. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.